Welcome back to another edition of the Prepper Recon Podcast. Our mission is to bring you great interviews with preppers from around the world so you can be better informed and better prepared for everything from a hurricane to the end of the world as we know it. Whether your plan is to bug out or bug in, CampingSurvival.com has all of your preparedness needs, including fish antibiotics, long-term storage food, water filters, bug out bags, and first aid kits. Use coupon code PrepperRecon for 5% off your entire order at CampingSurvival.com.
When disaster strikes, it's too late to prepare. PrepperRecon.com offers MOLLE-compatible individual first aid kits for your home, auto, or bug-out bag. These kits have everything you need to address a traumatic injury, including an Israeli battle dressing, quick clot, EMT shears, suture kit, Steri-strips, tourniquet, ACS chest seal, tough strip bandages, gauze, and so much more. $89 includes shipping. To buy your individual first aid kit, go to PrepperRecon.com and click the store tab at the top of the homepage. Order today before it's too late.
Hey Preppers and Patriots, this is the second half of my interview with David Morgan of silver-investor.com. Enjoy the show. There's a lot of speculation about financial upheaval this coming fall. We've got secular analysts and folks that are looking at some dates and things from the Bible as well. That are both sort of looking at this fall as being a very tumultuous period. Can you tell us your thoughts on that? And do you think that a bond bubble could trigger something like that?
Yeah, the bond bubble is definitely the place to be on the short side at the right time. It's just very, very difficult. I used to be actually fairly decent at the bond market, but I haven't been that good at it for years, and I admit it. Because there's so much manipulation now, and there's so many things that you just don't get access to as far as how to determine, where the market is likely to go. But the debt markets are the problem. It will resolve, and it will resolve in a manner that will take the value of the dollar down. So that means that the bond values will go down because all a bond is a future dollar. And so I think it'd be a little early in that time frame for the bond market, but coming back, I'll try to answer and be consistent with what I said to Greg Hunter when he asked me the same question. I'm not a big cycle theory guy. I have some friends that are very good at it. There's one, Eric Haddock out of Illinois, that I share work with him. And there's a lot of things lining up in the September-October time frame, primarily from presidential cycle, stock market cycles, and thinking counterintuitively or thinking as a contrarian. And so I picked that time frame on that basis, not on the Shemitah, which I've read the Harbinger as well, and other inputs. And call it a sixth sense. I mean, I hate to be a woo-woo guy, but, sometimes your gut instinct is really something you have to pay attention to. So I had just felt that, it's gone this far, it's gone this long, the sentiment, and that was another way I measured it, sentiment is so bad, it's got to run out through the summer of 2015, and the fall it will start back up. Well, when is that? That's, September, October. So factoring in what I've learned, and kind of a gut instinct, that's where I put the date as well. And then, of course, there's all these other people with other reasons why they pick the same time frame. And, I've been in these markets long enough to know there is such a thing as a self-fulfilling prophecy. So a lot of people that, believe the Shemitah thing, that believe cycle theory, that believe it's got to happen because, David Morgan thinks so. And, Martin Armstrong says October, 17th or whatever his date is, and on it goes. It almost forces it to happen, because everybody's like preparing that's when it's going to happen. So again, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So certainly at that time frame, I'd be paying a lot of attention, or I'd be positioned to take advantage of I won't say inevitability because we don't know, but the strong likelihood that it could take place, even if it wouldn't have otherwise. There's enough emphasis, let's say, in that time frame that I think you want to be on the right side of the trade.
And silver was a great way to ride out the 2008 crisis. Do you think it's going to perform as well in the next meltdown? Not
initially. I mean, 2008, it did fabulous. And, it was a couple things, but the QE1, QE2 thing, I mean, silver does the best in an inflationary expectation environment. So when QE2 was announced, silver was around $26 and it rocketed up from 26 to 48. And then, of course, as we all know, it's had a 4-year bear market within a secular bull market. I still think we're in a bull market, and so what it showed was that the inflationary expectation did not come into physical reality. Doesn't mean, as I said earlier, the true money supply would put it, it's $16 silver equal to like, $4.50, $5 silver in the early 2000s. That's a true statement, but it's all been liquefying to banks. It isn't in the money velocity. It isn't in day-to-day transactions. People aren't like worried about inflation. They are worried about the economy, and there is inflation much higher than they think, but they're holding on to cash because we're in this general stagflation where prices keep increasing, but wages keep going down. So there's a lot of propensity to hold cash or go to the dollar, like I said earlier. So it's rather complicated. I think what will happen is that when the run to the dollar stops and the run to gold begins, that's where the lead will be. So you'll see big money, big institutions, banks themselves, which banks have been on balance net buyers of gold the last several years. I mean, they were net sellers of gold, central banks, for quite some time. In the last, I think, 4 years or so, they've been net buyers. So that's something to bear in mind. Watch what they do, not what they say. But that will spill over into the, we the people, and that will be silver. So the way I see it is, dollar and dollar, dollar, dollar. You'll hear a lot of news, and is a strong dollar good for our economy, and why, and all this stuff about the dollar. And then it will slowly start sneaking into gold more and more and more. And then when the exit in the dollar comes, and the bond market's the best place to measure that, it could happen very rapidly. And who knows, they might shut down the gold market for a while. They might do in the gold market what they've done, at the ATMs in Greece. They might say, nope, can't have any gold trading for a while. I'm not predicting that, but I just want to keep people's thinking. And then, of course, that would, I think, very much spill over into silver. And since silver is such a small market, and there's so many we the people versus, elites that can buy, massive amounts of gold, there's less silver available for, investment purposes than there is gold, actually. And in a monetary sense, far less. So when you get a lot of people that want to put $50 in, but there's a billion of them, you got a real problem with the silver supply. So I do think eventually it will, but I think that's the scenario. So I want to be very clear. I'm sorry it was a wordy answer, but I want to be clear because, people, as best as I can, I do, what I feel is, my best effort every time I do an interview, but sometimes I don't explain it to the level that it demands because people say, well, David, you said silver's going to do great. And look, gold's doing great and silver's going down. And what do you mean? So I'm trying to paint a big, broad picture with justifications, validations, and fundamental thinking of why it's going to go the route I think. Could it be different? Absolutely. Could I be wrong? Sure. But that's the most likely scenario.
And your latest book is called The Silver Manifesto. Is that a good resource for folks looking for ways to hedge themselves against the coming mayhem?
Well, at the risk of sounding egotistical, yes. I mean, this is a 9-month production. We wrote, rewrote, and wrote again some of the every chapter, many of the chapters on the basic banking and fractional reserve banking and bullion banking, and then the manipulation of markets so it could be totally understood. It'd be like, I think there's one negative. There's a couple negatives on Amazon. One says Economics 101 or something, and it's far from Econ 101. Trust me on that statement. But you can be the judge of that. The point is, if someone that really wants to understand this and be able to explain it to their friends takes the time to read those chapters a couple of times, we wrote it in a manner that is hopefully easy reading, easily understood, and something that's not fun to read, but certainly good, in a manner that's enjoyable to read. You would have a very, very, very good understanding of all three of those topics and be able to explain it to your friends and family. And certainly if all you wanted was to get that out for yourself, to say, I really don't understand why. I mean, I hear these guys talking about buying gold, but I don't really know. Well, if you take the time and give yourself the gift of understanding or education and read read the whole book, but you can skip the history of silver is of interest to everybody, but read the chapters, the economic chapters, and get a full picture of where we are and why we can't get out of it and what that means, then I think you can invest with far more confidence. There's a lot of people it's like, it sounds good, but I don't get it. And, I can't do that in an interview, and, I can't meet people one-on-one. I mean, I do consultations, but nonetheless, the book is a great way. Think of, what I would charge you to give you 9 months of my life. I mean, my consulting rates are $375 an hour, right? So, I mean, you're buying a book that's, 9 months, and you're not paying $375 an hour for that. So you're getting a pretty good deal.
And it's available on Amazon, but if folks want to go to silvermanifesto.com, they can get the digital download for a couple bucks cheaper than the Kindle, right?
That's correct. Yes.
And your organization spends a great deal of time examining the minutia of individual miners. Now, how are the primary miners doing at $15, $16 silver? Are they still making a profit?
Some are. I mean, you've got Tahoe Resources that's around 11 or 12. You've got First Majestic that was up to around 22. Now with oil prices and internal controls that they put on, kudos to them. They're around 14, so they're probably making a couple bucks an ounce. But no, it's very, very difficult for them. As you know, Mark, we favor more of the streaming companies for a lot of reasons, and they have a fixed cost situation, so they're really not put in dire straits with low metals prices. They just have contracts to be fulfilled regardless of what the cost of metal is to the miners. So these finance houses / streaming companies still have pretty strong balance sheets and pretty good income flow. And so this is where, we look to make money in this market. And the way that we've structured the portfolio from top tier, mid tier, and speculative has balanced risk with the reward. Unfortunately, no matter how many times we say it, try it, give examples, and tell people, some people get the swing for the fences attitude. And believe me, I'm not against that. I had that attitude when I was younger and still have it to some degree. But you want to do it smartly. You don't want to load up on a penny stock. You just don't want to do it. It works out once in a blue moon, but most people put too much money in these speculative stocks, and a lot of my peers are out of the industry. And why? Because they didn't build a portfolio based on balancing the risk with reward and preparing for times that could be like now where these juniors are many of them are just gone. And since we didn't take the attitude of, we're just going to fill up with a bunch of juniors, put 100 on our list, and when 2 or 3 make it, we're going to brag to the world about how smart we are. I mean, that's just a shotgun bet. That means nothing. We do it differently. And I think that's one of the reasons that we've been able to maintain, a fairly good subscriber base. Certainly I'm looking for referrals. Certainly I'm looking for people to, subscribe to the members portion of the website. I just got a question today on our YouTube channel, and he says, David, I'm a little upset and that, all of you guys, who wasn't singling me out, never tell us what we do with our silver and gold, when the dollar is no longer viable. And I said, well, thank you. I go, if you are a member of the Morgan Report, you just go in there and there's a 78-page special report written by Dr. Edwin Vieira, the premier constitutional attorney on the planet, about using gold and using silver, call it gold clauses and silver clauses. And I can't give you the 78 pages in a radio interview, but it's a way to do business right now using silver and gold only, and certainly after the collapse, using silver and gold. So certainly, we do our best in these public interviews, and we save our absolute best, if you want to call it that, for people that pay us. I mean, this is, on the premium service, you can write an email. We guarantee you'll answer it. Well, I don't guarantee I will answer it, although I look at almost all of them, but one of the staff answers it or I answer it. And if we can't answer it, that's an answer, but we don't say we can't. We'll give you a reason why we can't, because there are some rules by the regulators that gets into a territory that we can't, but we'll explain why. And so, it's a service that I don't know how other businesses are set up, but some are, you might write a letter into the editor and you might get a response, you might not. We say at the premium level, not at the basic level, but at the premium level, if you pay us that much money, you are guaranteed that you will get an answer.
It's time for a quick break, and we'll be right back. The dollar's lost over 90% of its purchasing power since 1971. Silver, on the other hand, has proved to be a very stable form of wealth preservation over the years. And where do you buy silver? Silver.com, of course. Silver.com offers fantastic prices on silver and gold. Check out Silver.com today. Whether it's a grid down situation or just a temporary power outage from a storm, a sun oven will allow you to harness the power of the sun. Not only will you conserve resources, you'll maintain operational security by not sending up smoke. You can cook or dehydrate just about anything, including bread, muffins, roasts, jerky, beans, rice, and so much more. Go to sunoven.com/PrepperRecon for an $80 discount off a deluxe package. And as far as what to do with your gold after a collapse, I know in the Weimar, I know that there were some folks that had a single ounce of gold, and what they did is bought a city block with their ounce of gold. So there's things to do with it on the other side, isn't there?
There is, in fact, and I'm glad you brought that up because I'm going to rebrand the site from the Silver Investor to the Morgan Report. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to be able to bring everybody across the Rubicon, to the other side. So in other words, when the time comes to sell gold and silver, and I believe there will be a time to do it, that's not the end of the Morgan Report. I want to carry people through. And that means that I got to be looking ahead, just like I did after I got out of the gold and silver market in the 1980s. And folks, I didn't get out at the top, I admit that, but I did get out and made profit pretty much more on the gold than the silver side. But anyway, cellular phones was the big thing, and got into that in a big way, and it was very beneficial to a lot of people that followed us into the cellular phone industry. So I'm not saying that I know what the next big thing is going to be. All I'm saying is I've made a commitment. The commitment is the Morgan Report is going to help you not only sell at the right time, hopefully we'll do our best, of course, is to help you transition through the new dynamics, whatever they are, and it could be very interesting, but we'll be working very hard for you as members of the Morgan Report to look at what's new, look if there's investable places, to put your money, to work your money. And if not, what you can do, startups or whatever. So in other words, since I don't know the future, I just want to assure you that we'll be there and be looking ahead and try to, guide you in there. It's too early to get a lot of vision in that area. I mean, privacy is one area that's very, very important right now. People are saying, well, I don't want, everybody looking at this and that or coming in on a cyber attack. And so there's a lot in the privacy domain and protection from cyber warfare on a corporate and individual basis. So that's an area that, we could suggest looking at right now, but we'll continue to do stuff like that. So I wanted to just get out of the brand that I'm silver only, because I've never been silver only. It is one of my passions and expertises, but I have a bigger picture than that. And once the silver gold story comes to its final chapter and we sell it, I want to be able to help people move on from that into the next, whatever it is. And I certainly don't know that at this point.
And then secondary miners are miners that dig for copper, iron, or some other metal, and they get silver sort of as a byproduct. If several primaries were forced to close due to market prices, would the secondaries and the remaining primaries be able to keep up with industrial and investment markets? Would they be able to keep them supplied?
No. Right now, if it was mining alone, it wouldn't meet the demand. The only reason demand is met is because there's so much recycling. I mean, I know a lot of people have a misconception that all this silver ends up in landfills, and it's true, a great deal does, but there's also a great deal that does get recycled. For example, I used to say, and mistakenly, well, not mistakenly so at the time, I used to say like over a decade ago that it's not worth recycling your cell phone because there's not enough silver in it for the energy costs that it would take to, smelt this thing down and get the silver back out of it. That was true at that time, but I don't know how long the smartphone's been around, but ever since the advent of the smartphone, a smartphone is worth 3 grams per ton. And 3 grams per ton is better than a lot of mines that are in production right now at 1 gram per ton. So you're actually better harvesting cell phones at 3 grams per ton than you are in some of these bigger mining operations at 1 gram per ton. So it's very economic to mine cell phones now, smartphones, than some mines. So just, be clear. And so that's you could say I made an error. I didn't. I mean, at the time there weren't really smartphones, but, they have been around for quite some time. So some, a little tidbit of information, but this is technology changing. So what I'm trying to suggest here is that there's a lot more attention paid to the electronics world that's put a huge demand on gold and silver. over from 2000 till now. It's leveled off, by the way. I mean, the industrial demand for silver shot up pretty rapidly and then it's leveled off for the last several years. And that's sort of because, a lot of these technological goodies have kind of met maturity, where everyone that wants a smartphone has one, everyone wants a laptop has one, everyone wants a pad has one, so the market's mature. So you're not seeing a lot of growth in that area. But it was a pretty rapid rise until that was met, and now that it has been met, we got it pretty flat. Solar was a big contributor too, and that's flattened out and actually gone down slightly depending on which silver study you look at. I'm not sure I believe that one, but nonetheless, it's been, let's say, flat anyway. Could increase in the future. Hard to know at this point in time with all that's going on in the global picture.
Can you give us your near, medium, and long-term price targets for silver?
Yeah, early in the year, and I don't mind people getting upset with me. I mean, I don't like it. I like to be right. I like to be perfect. No human can. I mean, early in the year, looking forward and seeing, kind of the Greek tragedy, if you will, I thought you would see a bigger reaction to metals, and we have not got them, obviously, now. So I was thinking, we'd be in the 20s and even possibly as high as the breakdown point of 26. I don't see that happening now, although it could, and I can't rule it out because once these markets get going, they can go so strong and so fast, it'll surprise even me. And I've been there before, a few times, in fact. But I think a more likely scenario is, get through this Greek situation one way or another with it not really being resolved, and then move forward and see, silver creep back up into the, the $20 range and go get well above the $1,200 range and stabilize and get up to, I don't know, let's say $13.50. I'm not looking for a whole lot more than that. I could be wrong, and I hope I am. I hope we start to see a rapid build in the, September, October timeframe and a real strong rally into the end of the year. And certainly that's possible. And, ask me again, Mark, on the next interview, because I might have a different take. I mean, the only way you can be good at trading these markets is to pay attention to the market, not what you think about the market.
Sure. And like you said, this fall, I mean, we could get the fear factor in like we saw in 2008, and you just never know. And it can really, really get out from underneath of you. And like we said before, it's much better to be early than late, right?
Exactly.
And like you said, the Morgan Report, it provides great analysis on silver miners, and a lot of other stuff as well that you're, like you said, you don't just cover silver, even though that's a big part of it. Where can folks go to get that and get signed up for it?
Yeah, if you want to get on our free list, which is once a week, we don't pester you every day. Just go to silver-investor.com, get on our free e-letter alert. It comes out every weekend. And then if you're more serious than that, you can use the drop-down menu, look at the basic service, the basic plus, which is our premium service, or the mastermind series. And then if you want more free information, the best way really is the e-letter, because we gather it all for you and then send it to you, so you can just sit there and just, I won't say be lazy. We're all busy. It's a service that we provide for free. So you want to see what interviews I did, this one will be on there. And, oh, that's a long one, I'm not sure I want to listen to it. Or, oh, I've got a long trip, I would love to listen to that, or whatever it is. On the other hand, if you want to sort them out on your own, you can go to Twitter and see what I'm reading. And I only put up stuff on Twitter that I really think is important. I read, probably 10 times as much as I post. I'm not like, oh, I saw this and this and this. And then if you go to the YouTube channel, which is Silver Guru, I mean, my staff looks over that. I don't have time for all this stuff. I mean, I pay people to read the comments and comment on them if appropriate, because I'm busy doing the research. I'm busy keeping the business alive and doing interviews and everything else. And I'm not saying I'm so busy. I'm saying that I have to allocate my time to the best way possible to bring the best to the people that pay us. And that doesn't mean I have time to look at what the YouTube channel thinks of me, likes about me, or doesn't like about me. But we do monitor it so that someone that has something serious that's not a subscriber, if we think we can help them out, we do, but it's not our primary function. I've got much more to do than monitor these Twitter feeds and the YouTube channel and whatever Facebook has to say and that kind of stuff. I'm much more, I would say, my personality is just not there. I'm fairly social, but not that my social networking thing is a big thing to me. It's not. I'm more important about standing up for the truth, standing up for intellectual integrity, and trying to help people understand what's happening to them all around them and get a clear grasp of what's going on and what they can do about it.
And then what are all the different ways folks can get the Silver Manifesto?
That's pretty simple. Amazon's probably the easiest, but if you live in Canada, you're going to have to pay a big shipping cost. So go to our web landing page, thesilvermanifesto.com. It's thesilvermanifesto.com. Don't forget the. And we have ways that we'll ship it. I have, my assistant, she'll mail it out to you. And that's for Canadians only. I think everywhere else in the world, Amazon will ship it to you.
David, thanks so much for taking time to come on the show today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
In the Days of Noah, Book 2, Persecution by best-selling author Mark Goodwin. A globalist conspiracy transpires by way of a false flag attack against America's energy infrastructure. Noah and Cassandra Parker witness a complete economic meltdown, which is intentionally triggered by the event. The assault is blamed on patriots and Christians who are rounded up into detention centers across the country. Noah and his friends must take action to prepare for the meltdown and defend against the totalitarian regime which is gunning for their freedom and, quite possibly, their very lives. Get your copy of The Days of Noah, Book 2, Persecution for Kindle, paperback or audio edition at Amazon.com today.